Well, alrighty then. No summary, no explanation, no intro. Let's just straight up jump into this. Will I be able to beat Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War with only headshots? Well, let's slap that puppy into veteran mode and find out. I was at a bar with my boy Adler, just smoking our life away and discussing everyday things like the location of 2 Iranian terrorists. The police chief tells us that he was able to get the police force away from our position in order to give us the opportunity to splatter blood and cum all over the walls of the house we were about to raid. Adler says we brought an army. That army was me. I pulled out a couple $1,000,000 in order to pay for the drinks and headed outside where Woods provided me with a nice and trusty MP5. The man we were hunting was called Kasim. We came across his house and I greeted one of his friends by opening another hole in his head. They rudely fired back, so it was time to put my skills to the test. As you can see here, my aim was not only deadly, but it was stupidly deadly. Unlocking these enemies' third eye for them was no issue whatsoever. I lied, because in reality, I died many times attempting this. I also managed to kill this man without a headshot, so I also restarted my game as well. But I can't show you those parts, since I want to look cool for YouTube. Now I know that you're probably doubting that I'm even human due to the skulls I'm shattering in this footage, but I can assure you that not even I know what I am sometimes. My speed and reflexes are all here because of practice, hard work, and dedication. And a few other things, like a Logitech gamer mouse and having no type of social life. I jumped onto this building while putting a red hole into these 2 men and made it to Kasim. Adler hit him with the 1-2 buckle my shoe, and I interrogated him. Adler threw his partner safely onto the car down below, but I told Kasim I wouldn't be that easy on him if he didn't give me the location of Arash Kadivar. He crapped his pants and pissed his shorts and ended up telling me that Kadivar was in Turkey meeting someone at an airport. Now I could have tossed him over, but that would have made me fail this challenge, so I decided to be a nice guy and finish breaking his nose. We captured him, and me, Woods, and Adler were off to Turkey. I witnessed a murder and used my binoculars in order to try and find Arash. Now, this is a terrorist in the 80s, so I was looking for someone that stood out. I saw a truck pull up, and without even seeing his face, I knew this was him. He was dripped out in Gucci from head to toe. Fashion and money of this caliber could only be obtained illegally. Combine this with the fact that he just popped 2 of his men and you got yourself a terrorist. I confirmed this was him and decided to take him out. Now I clearly aimed at his head, but I must have forgotten to take into consideration the fact that this was a game. So instead, the bullet decided to penetrate the skull of the poor man standing in front of Arash. Arash attempted to escape, but me and the boys hopped in a car and chased after him. After getting blown up by this reckless driver, I went at it again. I put a bullet the size of my middle finger inside of this man's head and took out the RC card that I got from Walmart. I drove that puppy right under Arash's plane and it went kablooey. Destruction and death described these next couple of seconds. I got knocked out and woke up to Arash getting dragged by Woods. He tells us that a Soviet known as Perseus won't be able to be stopped, that his plan is already in effect and that we are all too late. Now Perseus was believed to be dead, so this rattled Adler just a little bit. He put a cap in Arash's face, and with that we now know that Perseus is our #1 threat. A few weeks passed and it was time to meet the new recruit for the team, me. I wanted my name to be classified as well as my last name in order to remain completely anonymous. I wanted my in-game trait to represent my real-life traits as well. So I went with paranoia and professionalism. Professional at what, you may ask? Well, I'm not too sure myself. My code name was Bell, short for Bell. Our first step in figuring out what Perseus was up to involved going back in time, specifically going back to the Vietnam War. While in Nam, I switched out my 1911 for a much more powerful and deadlier gun, a 1911. I got on a helicopter and made my way to a hostile village. Now I think this goes without saying, but trying to aim at a head from this distance with a minigun strapped to an attack chopper is nearly impossible. Add in the fact that the reticle on this gun encompasses the entire body of the enemies down below, and I can confidently say I failed this challenge during this part. I made it to boots on ground, and it was go time. I pulled out my 1911 and unleashed my inner John Wick on these poor Vietnamese men. These men had no chance against my crackhead reflexes. They barely even put a scratch on me. It really is quite embarrassing. I made my way through this village, popping heads left and right, and eventually came across the intel we were looking for. I got in my chopper, and again, I was unable to get headshots. This was completely out of my control. Basically, anything that is out of my control will not be counted towards this challenge. I blew up a lot of things while in this chopper and defended my hill from oncoming Soviets and Vietnamese. We acquired a nuke, and I thought that the mission was finally over. But shit hit the fan very quickly. Our pilot was incapable of driving a helicopter correctly, and we ended up crashing. Now I had to use the minigun again in order to fend off the waves of enemies. This was ridiculously hard. I tried to carefully aim at the head, but this was way too slow, and I eventually died. My only option was to hold down the trigger and aim at their head as quickly as I could. Upon doing this, I grabbed an M60 machine gun equipped with a 7.62mm caliber and proceeded to unleash hell upon these men. One of them got a lucky shot on me, but it was too late for them. In glorious fashion, every single enemy was incinerated from head to toe. And just like that, we completed the mission. The intel that I single-handedly acquired revealed the name of a Russian arms dealer called Anton Volkov. If we couldn't get to Perseus, then it was time to hunt down his men. I took a train to East Berlin. I checked my rollie to see what time it was, and saw an ad for Doritos and Fila. Me and Adler were in charge of tracking a man named Franz Kraus. Franz was going to lead us straight to Volkov. Before we could make it to him though, we needed to very quietly make our way there. I quickly put these 3 men down and even double tapped one of them for dying in a weird position. 2 officers nearly caught us, but I made sure both of them were never ever going to wake up again. We made it to the rooftop of some building and tried to look for Kraus. Bingo. I took care of 2 enemy birds and made my way to a bar to meet a lovely woman. Kraus was sitting just ahead of us. I pulled out my spy gadget I got from a Happy Meal and used it in order to figure out what Kraus was saying. Apparently, someone knew that I followed Kraus, so Volkov decided not to appear. I made my escape the same way my crush did when I took her out on a date and started to make my way towards Lazar. I came across Lucas, who looked like he was being kidnapped. If he was weak enough to get captured, then he's weak enough to rat me out. Putting an end to his miserable life was my only option. I accidentally alerted everyone by killing this man and decided to take them all on. It was going great, but I didn't really know where to go, and I completely forgot I had a waypoint, so I ended up succumbing to all the lead that was pumped into my back. This whole time, I somehow managed to miss Lazar holding this door for me like the dumbass that I am. I followed him, and we ended up in front of Kraus's apartment. So we came up with another plan. Play this game of Enduro, sneak into his house, knock out his wife using a tranquilizer, search his room for semen, and place a tracker on his briefcase in order for him to take us directly to Volkov. Everything went smoothly until I found out Kraus cheated on his wife with the woman in the closet. I received the cold steel metal frame of a gun to the back of my head for finding this out. This was okay though, since it got me right to Volkov. This crazy Russian wasn't playing around, and he was about to cap me for being better looking than him. But my team came down and saved my life. From here, it was go time. I ran after Volkov while of course putting lead into the noggins of all these enemies, and eventually I arrested him. Volkov, being the rat that he is, he spilled the beans on what Perseus was up to. Apparently, he had a nuke. We didn't know what he was going to do with it, but I think it's not hard to tell that he didn't just get a nuke just to look at it. Volkov also revealed the location of some buildings in Ukraine, which the team assumed had more information on Perseus and his plans. It was time for me and Woods to infiltrate that base. The sheer size of this facility sort of got me a little nervous, but I'm with the legendary Frank Woods, so I knew that this would be a breeze. Me and him took out the guards at the front gate and proceeded inside the compound. I tried to tomahawk this man's dome, but I failed. I attempted it again, this time from a different angle, and well, I think it's safe to say that I should just stick to my 1911. I got my ass beat, but Poppy Woods saved my life. From here, we took the lives of more people who probably had a wife and kids, and made it to an arcade room. Apparently, this whole place was supposed to resemble what America looks like. I'd say they nailed it to a T. America is basically filled with gamers, Redditors, and fast food restaurants. I took a stab at some of the games they had in here and realized I suck at them. For being unable to be good at these games, I took out my rage on all the enemies in this fake town. They posed quite a threat, but after taking them out, I decided to take out my rage on all the mannequins that were everywhere as well. Some dude thought he was cool in his cosplay, but I made quick work of him and made it to the information we were looking for. Something called Operation Greenlight. I printed out the information, and apparently the nuke that Perseus has is American. Me and Woods hopped into an APC, and I actually managed to get headshots while in this thing. After a little APC battle, we made it out. Woods gave Hudson a solid knuckle punch for withholding the fact that he knew what Operation Greenlight was. Hudson explains that Operation Greenlight placed nukes in every single major city in Europe in case that if the Soviets ever took control of Europe, it would be the ultimate countermeasure to stop the Soviet invasion. Nothing says America like blowing up our problems. These nukes were also upgraded to become neutron bombs, which basically means that radiation would take out the people instead of the actual blast itself. It's smart, to be honest. I think the last thing I would want is for a building to collapse during a nuclear explosion. One of the bombs went missing, so of course it's the one that Perseus has. That intel we gathered from the base revealed that there was something in Yamantau that Perseus wanted. Of course, the only two capable of this job were Mason and Woods. But before we go into the mess that was that mission, I'll have to end the video here, so please stick around for part 2 of my legendary headshot challenge, and please subscribe to the channel in order to keep my sanity at bay. Leave a comment down below of any game and any challenge you'd like to see me do here, and with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.